3 Australian warships were travelling through international waters in the South China Sea on their way to Vietnam. Out of the blue, they were confronted by the Chinese Navy and warned away. It is the latest event in years' worth of increasing tensions between China and Australia. Australian Air Force planes have been challenged by China before, but this was the first time the Australian Navy had been confronted. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull confirmed that relations between the two nations have frozen. Will this escalate to war? Will China invade Australia? If he wanted to, President Xi Jinping certainly has the manpower to invade Australia. The People's Liberation Army could stomp all over Australia's military. Both countries spend about 1.9% of their GDP on their military. But where this amounts to $25 billion spent on Australia's military, China spends $215 billion. As a result, the PLA boasts 2.3 million active personnel and another 500,000 in reserve, compared to Australia's 77,000 active and reserve personnel. China's land, air and sea forces are literally hundreds of times bigger than Australia's. Its navy is large enough to surround the Australian continent, and Australia has nothing to combat the thousands of Chinese tanks and fighter jets that would attack its shores. If China wanted to wipe Australia off the map, it could deploy its 260 nuclear warheads. Australia could not retaliate, because it has no nuclear arsenal. However, Australia is too far away and too big to invade easily. Supply lines from mainland China would be very overstretched and vulnerable to attack at sea from Australia's allies. An alternate war strategy might therefore be for China to try to choke Australia by attacking its essential shipping. But as of 2017, the CIA ranks Australia's merchant navy as the 39th biggest in the world. This means it is not big enough to meet Australia's needs, and they rely on their friends and neighbours to help. If China were to attack Australian shipping, they would almost certainly end up attacking American, British, Canadian, Japanese, Korean, Norwegian, Indonesian, German, Kuwaiti ships and sailors. This is not to mention the fact that Australia is a member of NATO, which means that an attack on Australia would be considered an attack on 28 other countries. Such an alliance would be obliged to retaliate by attacking China. So delicate are the tensions between the East and the West, it is easy to see how, by attacking Australia, China could quickly spark World War III. Xi Jinping knows to avoid this. Instead, he may be targeting Australia with subtler weapons. In April 2018, academic Clive Hamilton told the US Congress that China is waging psychological warfare on Australia. He claimed China was subjecting Australia to a campaign of subversion, cyber intrusions, and harassment on the high seas. Hamilton recently wrote a book about what he called China's silent invasion. But before it went to print, the publishers withdrew it because of threats to the book and the publishers from possible action.